It says that I am live, but it's not yet 1 p.m. So just give it a few more seconds. Um, Anyways, all's well. All right. Okay, it's 1 p.m. and I believe everyone is here. So, hello everyone, and welcome back again to my channel. My name is Gloria, and thank you so much for clicking on to this event. If you're new here, please do well to hit that red subscribe button. Today, we're going to be having a wonderful guest in the house. I'm sure you can see him already. His name is Olu Ajiboye. I'll kind of give you a heads up of who he is. And today's topic is going to be about what you see on your screen right now, immigration pathway for international students in Canada. So if you are an international student here in Canada, this video is for you. If you are planning to move to Canada at this time, you're going to learn a lot. So who is Olu Ajiboye and why should I listen to him? Okay, Olu Ajiboye works as a public servant and policy analyst in Canada. He is a doctoral research fellow at the University of Saskatchewan, and he obtained master's degree from the same university as an international dean scholar. His specialization is at the intersection of public policy, immigration, and capacity building for newcomers and other underrepresented groups in Canada. So Olu is actually a recipient of different academic awards and scholarships by the government of Canada. You heard me right though. Awards and scholarships by the government of Canada, the University of Saskatchewan, and he has also worked on projects that have been funded by the World Bank, Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council, as well as the Center for Forensic Behavioral Science and Justice Services. What does Olu do? What does he do during the weekends or during his time? Well, he shares regular insights on how people can immigrate to Canada and integrate as newcomers on his different social media platforms. So things like Twitter, Instagram, he's always there sharing vital information. And so I know you're wondering, am I going to leave the information for you guys to connect with him? Yes, I would leave that in the description box. So head on there and you will see how you can connect with Olu. So Olu, I just want to say thank you so much. I know your time is very, very precious. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here. So you can go ahead and tell us more about the immigration pathways for international students in Canada. After that, we'll talk about question and answers.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you from wherever you're listening to us to. My name is Olu, as mentioned earlier. Some of you that follow me on social media call me Olu of Canada. You know, I enjoy the opportunity to share resources and information with, people who are planning to come to Canada or newcomers in Canada who looking towards integrating into the society as well. A little bit more background about me. I came into Canada myself as an international student a little bit above 6 years ago. Now, when I look back and think about that, it still feels like yesterday, but it's been 6 years. I came in 2015. I had the opportunity of going to the University of Saskatchewan for my master's and also my PhD. And it's been a wonderful opportunity, which we look forward to sharing the resources and the information with other people so that they can learn from our own experience. They can avoid the mistakes we made in our own time. They can get a hold of these opportunities that are always out there. Because I came into Canada as well as an international student myself, I enjoy talking about the pathway and the process for international students. I had the opportunity of not only studying in Canada, I also transitioned into PR, which is permanent residency, and then became a Canadian citizen, all within, the 5 and 6 years. So the opportunities are always there for people to take a hold of and put in the work and do what needs to be done to take advantage of those opportunities as well. So when we're talking about the pathways for international students, as the topic implies, when you're coming into Canada as an international student, your primary purpose is that you're coming to study. You want to come to Canada to study and then take advantage of other opportunities after completing your program or before completing your program. For a lot of us who want to stay back and work in the country and become PR and become citizens as well. What I tell prospective international students is that there are 6 questions you need to answer before you even begin or start the process of applying to come to Canada as an international student. The 6 questions would be: number 1, what do I want to study and at what level? Very, very important to answer that question, because in Canada we have more than 100 universities and a lot of colleges, hundreds or thousands of programs being administered in different universities and colleges, starting from things like bachelor's degree, diploma programs, master's degree, PhD, and what have you, and also in different specializations. I'm going to use myself as an example. I already had my bachelor's degree from Nigeria, and when I was thinking about going abroad to study, the next thing was to look at what next level of study can I do? At that point, for me, was doing a master's degree. For someone else, it might be coming to Canada to do another bachelor's degree. For someone, it might be coming for a graduate certificate or diploma. For other people, it may be coming for a PhD. But that's one very important question you need to answer yourself. And also, what course of study would your program be in? One thing I tell people is that education is also an investment. International students in Canada pay 3 to 4 times more of what local students will pay. If you are investing your time, your resources, your knowledge and everything into an educational program, you want to make sure it's something that will be beneficial for you in the long run. And that's why when you're planning on choosing the program, the course of study, you factor in those things. What do I want to do with this program, in the future? How would this program contribute to my knowledge, to my skills, to my expertise in the area of professional career I want to do? And those are kind of the type of questions you want to do an in-depth individual research on before you decide. So very, very important, what do I want to study? The next question to answer would be, where is the program I want to study being offered? Like I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of colleges and universities in Canada, but obviously not all those universities would offer the program you are interested in, So you have to narrow down your search after answering the question of what do I want to study to where is the program being offered. There are a lot of resources you can use to answer that. Number 1, Google. I tell people when you're starting your journey as going abroad to study, Google is your friend. Make use of Google. If you do a Google search or say I want to do a master's degree in public policy in Canada, and I just use those search words alone, I would see a list of schools offering masters in public policy in Canada, and you can take it from there. There are also other databases you can use. The University Study Database is one of those databases you can use, and it's just simply going to www.universitystudy.ca. So that's a database of all universities and colleges in Canada where you can use certain search words on the program you're interested in to look for the places where the programs are being offered. So that's the number 2 question. After deciding what program do I want to do and at what level of study, where can I find the program, or where is the program being offered in Canada to know the universities you can apply to. The 3rd question would be, what are the requirements of the program? You find out that in a lot of universities, even though they are offering the same types of program, their admission requirements vary. In some places they would require you to have certain grades. In other places they would require you to have maybe experiences or professional experiences or research experience and all that. So you want to familiarize yourself with the admission requirements in these particular universities, and that can help you narrow down which of the schools you would be applying to eventually. The number 4 question to answer would now be, am I eligible for this program? By checking the admission requirements, you would be able to tell if you've met the admission requirements, because a lot of these universities, and not even a lot, all the universities would have the specific requirement for the program on their website. If you check that, then you can determine and say, if a university says you should have maybe a 3.75 on the scale of 5.0 to get into their master's degree, you know yourself, you have your results, you can check and say, do I meet this requirement? If they require you to write maybe a specialized, standardized test, maybe like GRE or GMAT for people coming for business-related program, finance, accounting, and all that, then you will be able to check and say, is this something I can do to get into this program as well? That's the fourth question to answer. The fifth question would now be, when or how do I apply? You find out that in all these universities, the specific time they open applications, they accept applications, how they want those applications to also be submitted would vary. For some, they will say your deadline is maybe April something, or March something, or January something. You want to keep this in mind so that you are familiar with when you need to put your application together to make sure you are beating that deadline. And, it's very, very important, because coming to Canada to study is becoming much more popular for a lot of people. So many people are applying. You want to get in, put the first foot in the door as early as possible, so that if they say, we've met the quota, you'll be part of those that would have met the quota. So that's why that's very, very important. And the last question I tell international students to put in mind, even the fact that coming abroad to study, I do not sugarcoat it, will cost you a lot of money, So then the final question would be, what would be the cost of doing this program, and how do I intend to finance my program? I tell people to keep in mind how they want to finance their program, even when they are just making the admission application, so that they are not caught unawares. And also so that for a lot of international students, a lot of us, we know what the economic situation is from back home. We need to depend on things like scholarships, or tuition waivers, or application fee waivers, or certain grants and all that. When you put this in mind, then it gives you the opportunity to check the financial support or the scholarships or grants that are available in this university. So those 6 questions would help you set the foundation of what you want to do. What do I want to study, and at what level of program? Where is the program being offered? What are the admission requirements? What documents do I need? Do I need to write GRE? Do I need to write IELTS and all that? Am I eligible for the program? How and when do I apply for the program? And what will be the cost and financial supports that are available by the university? And these 6 questions, when you're finding answers to them, it gives you the opportunity to plan around, look at your profile, your grades, your everything, and be able to make a definite choice of the programs to apply to, the universities to apply to, and other things. In addition to those 6 questions, there are 3 plans, and this is what your answers to those 6 questions would allow you to do. 3 plans I advise international students to make are: number 1, from the answers they've gotten from those 6 questions will be, number 1, your study plan. Your primary purpose of coming to Canada to study is to study. So you want to plan around that. The reason why that is also important is that when you apply to come to Canada to study, it's like playing a football match, and there are, there's a first half, there is a second half. The first half is getting the admission, the second half is getting your visa. Everything you're doing, if you get your admission without getting your visa, would amount to, just, putting in effort and not getting the desired result. And that's why you want to have these 3 plans ahead. Your study plan would allow you to look at the program you want to do. How convincing would it be for that program to convince a visa officer to grant your visa or approve your visa? When visa officers are looking at international students applying for visas in Canada, they want to be convinced that the investment you're making in your education is justifiable, it makes sense. Why are you thinking of doing this program in Canada? Why not in your home country? What would be the benefit of this program to you, to your career, to everything you intend to do in the future? The investment that will cost you tens of thousands of dollars, how do you plan to recoup that investment? One thing I tell people to put in mind when they are showing purpose of study is to choose a program that either shows an academic progression. Like in my case, I have a bachelor's degree in an area, I've worked in that area, I want to do a master's degree. It shows progression. It's convincing that, okay, this person is not just using this program for jackpot purpose. They just want to run away from their country and all that, which is very, very important. Or use the program you're choosing to show a professional progression. What do I mean by professional progression? We all know that it may happen that you did a certain program as your undergraduate degree, and life happens, you started working in a very different area that you had no academic training in. Now that you've worked for some years, you want to consolidate on that professional experience to build academic capacity and more training in that area. So you can use that and say, this is what I've been doing, this is what I now intend to do. For undergraduate students that are coming to study in Canada, yours is very straightforward. You probably have just your O-level and you want to come and do an undergraduate study in Canada. But also think of the investment you're making and how convincing that would be, and say, this is the area of training I want to do. This is what I intend to do after studying in Canada. Because as an international student, the Immigration Refugee Protection Act would expect you to show that upon the completion of your program, you intend to go back home. Even though the opportunities are there for you to get your post-graduation work permit, to transition into PR, to do every other thing. But when you are making that study visa application, you still want to convince them that you're just coming to study and you're going back home. The second thing I advise people, or the second plan is your career plan. What do I mean by that? From the time you're choosing your program, plan towards what you intend to do with that program. In Canada, outside Canada, what are the career pathways or opportunities that are available? Those are the things you can also build into your study plan. Say, I've done my research. If I do this program, these are the certain types of jobs I can use this for. This is what I can be paid as a result of having this level of program. It also helps you if you intend to stay back in Canada. Even though there are lots of jobs in different sectors in Canada, we all know that there are more jobs in certain areas than other areas. And again, as an international student, that you spend 3, 4, 5 times more than what a local student has spent on their study. You don't want to finish your program and still be spending a lot of time looking for jobs. It's very, very important. And that's why I tell people to also have that in mind. The third plan I tell people to have is their personal exit plan. What do I mean by personal exit plan? That will be your long-term immigration plan. When you complete your program in Canada, do you plan to stay in Canada? Do you plan to exit and go to another country? Do you plan to transition into permanent residency in Canada and become a citizen and all that? And putting your personal exit plan, your immigration plan into consideration would help you to decide, okay, this is a particular province I should probably go to. Maybe this is where my career or my occupation would be in demand. Maybe because of age, I am going to be too old by the time I finish my program. I won't have enough points for express entry. I need a provincial nomination. What province can I go to that would support that nomination process for me as an international student? And there are several provinces that, they have those opportunities for people who have studied there to transition or to be nominated as a provincial nominee for permanent residency. So you want to look into that. Example of those provinces, Saskatchewan, they have a student category of nomination that upon completion of your program, if you're able to work for 6 months, you would automatically be eligible for the nomination, the student nomination program. The same thing is available in Manitoba. In British Columbia, the same thing is also available. As a matter of fact, for certain programs, if you do certain programs in British Columbia, you don't even need to look for a job. You don't need a job offer, you don't need a work experience. By virtue of doing that program, you can easily be eligible for a nomination process. In other provinces in Atlantic Canada, in New Brunswick, in Newfoundland and Labrador, there are also other types of nominee programs for people that have stayed back in those places. The Atlantic Immigrant Pilot Program is also available. In a province like Ontario, especially if you come for a master's or PhD program in Ontario, there's also the Ontario Master's Graduate and the Ontario PhD Graduate Program for people who have done a master's degree. So those are the things you want to look into and factor those things into the decision of where you want to go to study or where you have to move to after completing your study in Canada, so that you can be well positioned to know your immigration options, your personal exit plan, your long-term plan to either stay in Canada or transit from Canada to other countries as well. So those are the things I tell people to put in mind, and the opportunities are there. A lot of the questions we also get from people would be like around the requirements. What are the specific admission requirements? For people who want to come for bachelor's degree program, I tell that you only need your O-level. Very good grades, mathematics, English, 3 other related studies. You would easily get into a bachelor's degree program, an advanced diploma if you only have your O-level in Canada with just, either your WAEC if you're in Nigeria or in West Africa, or your NECO if you're in Nigeria, or the equivalent of a senior school certificate examination in the country where you reside. For those that are coming for graduate level program, master's and PhD, the requirements are much more than the undergraduate one. When you're coming for a master's or PhD program, there are 5 key requirements they look out for. The number one is your grade. A lot of the universities will say for a master's or PhD program, you must have at least maybe 70%. Some would say 75%. Some would say 85% or 80%. It varies based on the program and the university. But make sure you're checking that and comparing that to what you have, and be sure you're eligible. The good thing about that is also that a lot of the universities would also place more focus on the last 2 years of study. So we've seen instances where people probably had a 2-2. The university would say in the last 2 years, if you have higher grades, we may consider you in addition to other things. But those are the things you want to specifically check and verify those information. A lot of the universities would have contact persons you can reach out to on their program website. The emails are there, the phone numbers are there. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to them to verify those ones. So your grade is a very, very important one when you're coming for a master's or PhD. For people who have lower grades and are not able to meet the requirement of a master's or a PhD in Canada, there are also other programs you can do in colleges. We call them graduate certificate program or postgraduate diplomas. And these certificate programs and postgraduate diplomas, they offer you the same benefit that a master's and PhD would offer you. As a matter of fact, there are programs that are much more practical and hands-on. They offer you hands-on experience because some of them would have built a co-op component into their program where you get to do an internship as part of your program. It gives you that exposure into the workplace, and you can use that as a pathway into landing your first job in Canada. It's something a lot of people do. If you do a master's degree, just like a master's degree, a graduate certificate at a designated learning institution would also make you eligible for a post-graduation work permit. The only major difference is that a lot of programs that are funded in terms of scholarships are more available in universities than in those colleges. So if you're coming for a college program, ultimately, to a very large extent, you must be ready to fund yourself. So if you look at the grade and it looks like you're not eligible, it doesn't mean the end of your dream. It just means you have to make modifications to your plan and look for other college programs you are eligible for. That's number one requirement for graduate level training. The second requirement would be your statement of intent aside your grade. So by your grade, you will present your transcripts for the universities you are applying to. The second one is your statement of intent, which would give you the opportunity to now tell the admission committee why you are interested in the program. Some programs may refer to that as a statement of purpose. Some may refer to it as letter of motivation or what have you. It's the same thing. It's an opportunity to sell yourself, to describe your motivation for the program, why you're choosing the particular program, why you're choosing the particular university, what are the skills, the experiences, the background, academic and professional experiences you're bringing on board into the program. In the next 5 years, what do you intend to do and how would this program contribute to that? And there are lots of resources, even on my own personal website, www.olufemiloye.ca. You see a lot of samples, templates of these resources, guidance to help you prepare, so many other things. Even if you do a Google search, you see samples of letter of statement. Do not plagiarize them. Do not copy them word for word. Use them as guide to know what they expect you to write about. So that's number two. The third one is your resume. Your resume is also one of the very, very important requirements or documents to prepare when you're applying for a master's or PhD, And a lot of universities have what we call the Career Advancement Center, where they have samples of resume for their particular universities or what they expect your resume to look like. Any university you're applying to, just do a Google search. University of Calgary, for instance. I'm applying to University of Calgary. Do a Google search of resume or CV samples from the University of Calgary. It's going to be one of the first three results you would see. It will give you a template of what the resume looks like at the University of Calgary so that you can prepare that. That's the third requirement for graduate level training, master's or PhD. The fourth one will be your recommendation letter. A lot of the universities for master's and PhD will require you to submit recommendations letters from professors that have taught you before. It may be 2, it may be 3. Some may specify and say 1 academic and 1 professional, based on what you're interested in. And then what you just have to do would be to provide the information of those people that have taught you before. They will get in touch with them and tell them to fill out a recommendation letter for you. One thing I advise people to do is that before you put in the name of anybody, make sure you've informed them so that they are aware, because if they end up not submitting the recommendation letter, you've paid the application fee and all that, it's going to mean you're just putting in money into what you won't get the result. Because if your documents, all the required documents are not complete, they would not review your application. So that's why that's very, very important. I joke around and I say, if you have to start sending Happy New Month messages to those that have taught you before, to your previous bosses, so that by the time you need their assistance, it's not just coming out of the blue moon. They already know you, they're familiar with you, you've established that relationship with them. That's also very, very important. And that's the fourth requirement. Number 1, your grade or transcript. Number 2, your statement of intent, your letter of motivation. Number 3, your resume, which is also very, very important. Number 4, your recommendation letter. The fifth and final one would be if you're coming for a research-based program, a master's degree that is research-based or a PhD that we all know is research-intensive, then be ready to write a sample of the research you plan to do. So that's one thing a lot of the universities would ask you, to write a sample of the research you want to do, a research proposal that would state the research you want to do. Some of them may tell you you even have to look for a supervisor first. And those are the things you would know once you start looking at the admission requirement. Do I need to find a supervisor first? Do they have specific areas of research they are interested in? The research I'm interested in, is there a faculty member that will be able to supervise my research. Some will tell you not to bother applying unless you've contacted faculty members that would be interested in supervising your program. If that is related to your own program, then you know for sure that that's the first thing to do. Write your research statement, reach out to the faculty members. They always have a list of faculty members on program website, their names, their areas of research, their emails, which is the best way to reach out to them. So that's very, very important. And those are the 5 key requirements. The additional one, which I will just put for reference purpose, would be standardized tests. And this is one question we get a lot of time. People ask me, do I need IELTS to come and study in Canada? It depends. And that's why you see that as part of the compulsory requirements, I did not mention that. Because if your previous educational training had been in English language, you've been taught, you've done your examinations previously in English language, almost all Canadian universities will give you a waiver. You don't need that IELTS either for visa or for the admission. So you have to keep that in mind. If you're from a non-English speaking country where your previous degree was not taught in English language, then you would have to do the language test. The same thing is also applicable to standardized tests like GRE and GMAT. If you are not coming for a finance or a business related program, you would not need to do a GRE or GMAT as well. And there are also other schools that even when you're coming for a business related program, will give you an exemption on several, reasons, and say maybe because you have professional experience, but you would not know these specific details unless you check the specific admission requirement in the particular university you are applying to. But those are the things to keep in mind, the 6 questions to answer, the 3 plans to have, and the basic admission requirements to have in mind based on the level of study you are coming to Canada for. I know I said I was going to talk for 10, 15 minutes.
That's okay. Yeah, that's a lot of information for 30 minutes. Thank you so much. There have been a number of questions that were raised, but the one question I want to ask based on what you're talking about, I know you said something about postgraduate work permit. Now, yes. Many people who are watching right now do not understand what postgraduate work permit is. Can you just shed a little light on that before we go into our question? Sorry.
That's a fantastic question. So Canada allows you to stay back upon the completion of your program to work in Canada. When you complete your program, you may be eligible for the post-graduation work permit. And note the word, I said may. The reason why I said may is that for you to be eligible for a post-graduation work permit, you must have attended a designated learning institution where your program is eligible for post-graduation work permit. To come to Canada as an international student, you must go to a designated learning institution, basically universities or colleges in Canada. Not all designated learning institutions offer programs that are eligible for post-graduation work permits. I'm going to repeat that again. The fact that a university or college is a designated learning institution does not mean the program you're coming to do is eligible for a post-graduation work permit. And that's one of the things you want to do if your interest is to stay back in Canada and get a post-graduation work permit. Make sure you find out. If you do a Google search of DLI Canada, DLI, Designated Learning Institution Canada, it will take you to the landing page on the Government of Canada website where you can put the name of the school you are going to, and it will tell you whether the program or the school is eligible for a post-graduation work permit. Keep that in mind. The second thing to note on post-graduation work permits is that it is a one-time thing. Post-graduation work permits are not renewable. Once you complete your study, you apply for your post-graduation work permit. If you burn through that post-graduation work permit and do not transition to PR after that, even if you go back to school, you can't apply for another post-graduation work permit again. Either you now look for an employer to sponsor you on a temporary foreign worker program, another type of work visa, where they would sponsor you for a work visa and all that, but you would not be eligible for a post-graduation work permit again. And that's why we advise international students to make good use of their PGWP, because it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. The third thing to also have in mind is that the duration of your post-graduation work permit will depend on the duration of program you have completed in Canada.
Yep.
Very, very important. If you're coming to Canada and you do a 1-year program, you would only get a 1-year post-graduation work permit. For you to be even eligible for post-graduation work permit, you must have been a full-time program. Note this, because I've seen instances where students come to Canada as international students full-time, and then something happened, they transitioned into part-time. The moment you transition into a part-time program, you are no longer eligible for post-graduation work permit. So take note of that. You must have completed a full-time program at a designated learning institution where the program is eligible for post-graduation work permit for a minimum duration of 8 months. If you do a 6-month program, you are not eligible for post-graduation work permit. It must be at least 8 months for you to get either an 8-month or a 1-year work permit. The other part of the duration is that if you now do a program that is more than 1 year and up to 2 years, you get a 3-year post-graduation work permit, which is important to note that if your program is up to 2 years, it gives you a 3-year post-graduation work permit, which gives you more than enough time to work, to plan for your PR, to transition if you need a 1-year work experience in Canada. Because what I've found out, and this is a common question I've been getting recently, is from people who want to come to Canada to do a 1-year program and want to transition into PR. I tell people it's not impossible, but it's a very, very tight thing to do. It's a race against time, especially if you need a 1-year work experience in Canada as well. Because by the time you burn through that 1-year work permit, you have no time again to apply for PR. But there will be people that they have more than enough to apply for PR. They just need a Canadian education to get more points. Then it means you have to plan ahead and make sure that before your 1-year work permit expires, you've probably applied for a nomination, you've gotten that, you've submitted your PR application. If that happens, as long as you submit your PR application before your work permit expires, even if it's just 1 day remaining, then you can apply for a bridging open work permit to continue doing your work so that you can continue your legal status in Canada until you get a response for your PR application. That's very, very important. The other part of that is that if you come to Canada on a 1-year program, now listen to this very well, and it's looking like you already look at the trends of things. If you get a 1-year work permit, you would not be able to get a PR before that 1 year is done. What you can do is that immediately you finish your first program, start a second program for another 1 year. If you add these 2 programs together, even though they are 1 year each, but because you did them back to back before you applied for your post-graduation work permit, you can merge the 2 programs together to apply for 3-year or to be eligible for a 3-year post-graduation work permit. So that's one thing some other people have also been able to do, and which the Immigration Refugee Protection Act, which is the law guiding immigration applications in Canada, would allow you to also do as well. So pay particular attention to these things. Make sure you're going to a DLI. Make sure the program you're going for in that particular DLI is eligible for a post-graduation work permit. Take note of the duration of the program. Note for sure that your post-graduation work permit is non-renewable. Okay, the only reason why you can renew a post-graduation work permit is, let's say for instance, you do a 2-year program, you are eligible for a 3-year post-graduation work permit. But because by the time you apply for your post-graduation work permit, your international passport is about to expire. Canada does not give visa longer than the duration of your international passport. By virtue of that, you are eligible for 3 years. Your passport is just 1 year duration. They will give you that 1 year duration and tell you to go and renew your passport before that one would expire, so that you can get your remaining. It's like keeping change with IRCC. You go back and get your change. That's the only gray area for people to be able to extend. Well, that would be because you are eligible for a longer duration because of your passport, you couldn't get that. You renewed your passport, you go and collect your change from IRCC. So I hope I'm able to answer that question very well.
100, you did. Thank you so much. Somebody just quickly asked the question on the screen. Says, do you advise a second program for someone that is currently doing 1 year program? I think you touched on this already.
I think, yeah, and that's what we just answered. If you look at your program and it looks like it's realistically not possible for you to transition into PR, instead of getting a 1 year post-graduation work permit and the end of that, now looking for an employer to sponsor you, which may be very, very difficult. And the reason why I said that may be difficult is that the employers would have to justify to the government through what we call the labor market impact assessment to show that they've advertised the job for 90 days in Canada, they couldn't find anyone within Canada to do that job. They are now recruiting you as a temporary foreign worker, which is challenging. Not only justifying, they also have to pay. They are going to pay about 1,100 Canadian dollars for that LMIA, which obviously a lot of employers are not really interested or keen on doing because they can always get someone else to do the job for them. So that's why you have to be mindful of that. So if you look at your own personal situation, as a matter of fact, I personally recommend people doing 2 year programs so that they are not under too much pressure and all that to transition. But I also understand that 2 year program means higher financial implication for you, and everyone's pocket is different. Those are the things you have to factor in. But if you come on a 1 year program and it's looking like you may not be able to transition quickly, then it's advisable to do the second program immediately after you've completed your first program.
Thank you. So this question I received from someone in Nigeria, it says, for a student that has first degree in architecture and wants to come to Canada to read for a 1 year or 2 year course in that area of nursing, what can he do, or what's the possibility of doing that? So somebody that did first degree in architecture but wants to come to Canada and change to nursing.
The first question would be, why nursing?
Yeah.
The second question would be, what are the requirements for nursing program? Do you meet the requirements? The first question on why nursing ties to the study plan I mentioned earlier around academic progression and professional progression. Are you currently working as a nurse that you will be able to use that to justify why you want an academic training? You have to have a solid argument to be able to convince a visa officer that I did architecture, I work as an architecture or as an architect, and now I want to come and do nursing. What would the correlation be? And how would you be able to justify that? The second one would be, what are the requirements for a nursing program? Because I know for sure a nursing program would, especially if it's at the graduate level, would expect you to have a background that is related. Maybe something like anatomy or, biology or something. That expectation will be there because nursing is something that deals with human life and all that. They want to know you have that background. Except you're considering coming for an entirely new bachelor's degree in nursing. And then when you're doing that, you look at things like my O-level, do I have what it takes to even get into a bachelor's degree in nursing program? Those are the two key things to consider. If you're able to have a solid explanation as to why you're making that career change and how that will be beneficial in terms of your study plan, and two, do you meet the requirements of the program you intend to apply to? Would it be convincing when it gets to the visa application stage for the visa officer? You have all your documents, your explanations intact. Nothing states in the IRPA that you cannot change focus or move to another area as long as you are able to convince the visa officer, convince the university meets their requirement to also get the admission.
Thank you so much. I have a 2-in-1 question from somebody in Lagos. Okay. It says, how many years after school before I can get PR? And do I need English test to come to Canada as an international student?
I guess the other part we already answered that. If your previous level of educational training was taught in English. You do, especially for someone from Nigeria, you do not need IELTS. When it gets to the time you're applying for PR, you need the IELTS at 10. But the IELTS you'll be doing then will be the general study. You can't escape that as long as you're applying for PR as an economic immigrant in Canada. Even if you studied in Canada, you still have to do that IELTS. The first part of the question, which is on how soon can you apply for PR, there's nothing stopping you from applying for PR anytime. I personally transitioned directly even when I was still doing my master's degree. Canada does not stop you and say you must complete or you must have lived in Canada for certain years. As long as you are not under a scholarship that requires you to go back home after you finish your program. You know, there are certain scholarships like that, government-sponsored scholarship that would say after your program, you have to go back home. If there's nothing like that, you can apply for PR anytime you meet the requirement of a PR program. Any PR program. I used the express entry in my own time because I already had work experience from back home. Immediately I came to Canada in 2015. That was the year the express entry also started, you know, and I got the information, looked left, right, center, and saw that, oh, I actually even meet the requirement of the Federal Skilled Worker Program subcategory of express entry. And I applied for that and got that even before completing or graduating from my master's degree program. So there's no timeline. Anytime, if you have to work in Canada before you are eligible for PR, then you have to work for up to 1 year. But if you meet a PR requirements, anytime you can apply for that.
Thank you. How can I find schools that offer scholarship in Canada?
Very good question. So I tell people to focus on the U15 universities. Okay. I call them the heavy pocket universities in Canada. They are the Ivy League universities in Canada, the Oxford and Cambridge and Harvard of Canada. If you go to www.u15, and then number 1 and 5.ca, you see a list of these 15 universities. The reason why I tell people to look out for them is that they have a lot of scholarships. The good thing also about them is that in most cases, you don't even have to apply for scholarships separately. It's the same documents you're using for your admission that they would use to determine if you meet the scholarship requirement. The second way to find scholarship in Canada is any school you are looking or applying to, they always have a finance section on their website. Any school, go to their website, look for the finance section, look at the scholarships they have to offer, look for the requirements of those scholarships, and if you meet the requirement. You know, it's as simple as that. They've made it very, very easy for people so that you don't have to apply. It's the same admission process in most cases that they use to determine if you meet the requirements of any scholarship. The third way to also get scholarship in Canada is if you're coming for a research-based program, like I said, to reach out to faculty members and ask them if they have grants for you. So a lot of the professors and lecturers, they receive research grants from government, from international organizations, from their universities, from third-party agencies to do research. And they recruit students to assist them with the research so that they can pay you out of the grant. So you can always ask them. Some of them may give you something that would now allow you to work as a research assistant, as a teaching assistant, to even earn extra income, you know, as part of the job you want to do. So it doesn't get better than that. Target the U15 universities, check finance section of university website, reach out to prospective supervisor and ask them if they have research grants that they can fund your study from.
Thank you. Another one says that I am an international student in Canada. Is there any new pathway to PR for international students?
Currently, no. So they did a TR to PR pathway last year that assisted 90,000 international graduates and foreign workers to transition. Aside that, the other one or the other ones that are still available would be the Atlantic Immigrant Pilot Program for those who study in Atlantic Canada, the provinces of New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island. They have the student category of the AIPP that is for people who have studied in those provinces, meeting certain requirements and all that. You can check that out. The federal one is the Canadian Experience class for international students that have graduated and worked at least 1 year in Canada. But right now, if you've been following the news, you know that the draws for the express entry have been on hold for some time. We are hoping that later in the year, this will start back. So those are the things to look out for. The third ones to also look into would be the nomination programs in different provinces. Like I mentioned, some provinces have student categories of nominee programs for students that have studied in their provinces to stay back and be nominated and be able to live permanently in those provinces. Aside those ones, the special TR to PR that was done last year was just a one-time thing, and we've not had anything. There are no indications yet. The government may change their mind tomorrow, but as of today, the 19th of February 2022, there's no TR to PR other than the ones mentioned.
Okay. And can you explain at what point can I transition to full-time work after school?
Upon completion of your program, once you apply for your post-graduation work permit, you are eligible to start working full-time. Once you've completed your program, you can start working full-time as long as you've applied for your post-graduation work permit, even if they've not approved it. As long as you've applied, you had a valid study permit, you've applied for your post-graduation work permit, you can start working full-time. Also, I think the other thing to add is that even though as an international student, except otherwise stated on your study permits, you can also work part-time when you are completing your program in Canada, when you are in school. You can work part-time for up to 20 hours per week, and you can work full-time during scheduled breaks. So for a lot of people, the summer is their scheduled break, which is usually from May to August. You can work full-time during that period as long as there is no other condition stated on your study permits.
Awesome. And somebody said that, have you heard of the Nigerian Student Express program?
Yes.
Okay.
So the NSE started in, I believe, 2020 or 2019 or 2020. And that's an expedited visa application process for people applying from Nigeria. There's no special portal. There's no special application process. But what that means is that there are additional requirements you have to submit if you want your application to be processed through the NSE. Or the government, the IRCC can make a request after you've submitted your normal application and say, we find you eligible for NSE if you can provide these additional documents so that we can expedite the processing of your visa. But as a matter of fact, in recent times, they've not been making that request because from experience, what we learned was that the NSE wasn't as fast as they promised it was going to be. So they promised if you use the NSE, your visa application will be processed within 20 days and 8 weeks. So even some people provided the NSE requirement, which would be submitting my bank statement, writing IELTS, doing upfront medical, and so many other things. But it still took as long as a normal application. And I think that's why in recent times, they don't even make the request anymore.
Okay. Yeah. Now, this is my personal question to you. I know there are many people who are in Nigeria right now and they're watching this event. What would be your advice for them? Because many of them are thinking, okay, I think I can come to Canada through being an international student, or why don't I just come as a PR, But what would be your best advice for people in, for example, Nigeria and other countries?
Right, very good one. I think the first thing would be to determine which of the programs you are eligible for. Right now, from the information we've received or gotten from IRCC, the processing time for PR applications are very, very delayed right now. We saw a memo that got, that was made public a couple of weeks ago that said, realistically it's going to be taking like 36 months to process PR applications from outside Canada. And then recently, through the year immigration levels plan. They told us that right now they want to clear the backlogs and all that. They'll probably use all of 2022 to clear that before realistically an individual who wants to come directly. And this is my interpretation of some of the, and I think I did an analysis of this even on my Instagram page, explaining that realistically, if you want to come directly to Canada before 2023, you know, and you want to come as a permanent resident, either you are able to get a nomination program, get into a nomination program in any province, or get a job offer for other programs like the AIPP or the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot Program. For the express entry, it's going to be delayed beyond 2022. You know, given the fact that they have a lot of backlog. As of December, there were 1.8 million applications to be processed, cutting across PR, family sponsorship, work permits, study permits, and all that. So COVID did a number on the immigration sector in Canada. It's unfortunate, but it's just the reality of the world we live in right now. They're trying to clear those backlogs. So if you think you want to come before 2023, you may consider the study route. Start as soon as possible, apply for schools. A lot of the schools are accepting or rounding up applications for this year resumption already. So you want to get started with that. So it's basically the two things, looking at how soon do you want to be in Canada, given the backlog and the pause in PR applications or express entry draws right now. Number two would be, do you meet the requirements of either the PR or the study route, or what other alternative do you have? So it's going to be likely an individual specific thing to answer, weighing those factors I mentioned earlier. But either way, whether you come to Canada as an international student or eventually come to Canada as a PR, you know, there are always opportunities for you as a newcomer, as a new international student, as a new PR in Canada at any time.
Thank you so much, Olu. You've done noble. I can only say thank you. But what are your last words for those who are watching right now?
My last word would be, there are 3 P's I tell people to keep in mind when they want to come to Canada. Number 1 is to plan and prepare. Plan very well, prepare ahead. Plan very well, prepare ahead. Number 2 would be to follow the due process. Don't let anybody deceive you and say you can cut corners, you know, we can fake documents. You know, IRCC does not forget. Even if you get to Canada, it may be yes later. They'll dig up your file, they see some discrepancies. It may be when you want to apply for PR, it may be when you want to apply for citizenship, you know. And once they find a misrepresentation, they can send you back at any time. So make sure you're following the due process. Don't abuse the process. Do everything you have to do, but do it legally. Don't let any agent deceive you and say, just bring money, we'll fix some documents and all that. Very, very important to follow the due process. The last one is be patient. Be patient. I tell people, if Canadian immigration does not teach you patience, nothing else can teach you patience. I understand. You know how much, for a lot of people that already know me, I am a fan of people coming to Canada, taking advantage of the opportunities. I understand the intricacies with the system. It's taking longer than usual for so many people to fulfill their immigration dreams, but the opportunities would always be there. So be patient, everything good will come. So plan ahead, follow the due process, be patient. We look forward to welcoming you to Canada.
Thank you. You heard it all from the Olu of Canada. And Olu, how can people get across to you? And I know you said something about Japa. Please talk about that one so that the people can understand.
Right. So Japa is just to immigrate, to leave your country and move to another country. It's a slang for those of us that are from Nigeria. You know, you understand the word Japa is to move, to immigrate and all that. The best ways to reach out to me would be on social media. I'm very, very active on Instagram and Twitter. My handle is at Olufemi Loye, and you see tons of resources on my pages. Make sure you click on the link in my bio on Twitter, on Instagram. We also have a Telegram support group that is completely free. where people come together to support themselves, to exchange information, to find ideas, to support each other, to answer questions for each other. You know, we've put all these things in place to support individuals, and we encourage you to make use of those resources. On my website as well, you find a lot of information on some of the things we've talked about today, even in more details, opportunities for those who want to come to Canada to work, to study, to be PR and all that. You find tons of information on those things on my personal website, on all my social media pages, on the link in my bio on Twitter and on Instagram.
Thank you so much, Olu, for coming. And yeah, I will put all of that in the description. I don't know how they get the Telegram. Would that be in your bio as well?
Yes, it's in the link in my bio. You see a link that says join Olu's
Jackpa
community on Telegram, and you can click on the link and you'll be able to join as well.
Awesome. Time is money, so thank you so much. It's just 1 hour. I promise I won't go more than 1 hour with you. So thank you so much for coming, Olu, and I wish you all the best of luck in all your future endeavors.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take care.
Yeah, bye, everyone.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for staying and watching this event. Olu is very, very resourceful. I won't lie to you. And his time, again, like I said, he asked and he said 1 hour is 1 hour. And I told him I won't go past 1 hour. And yeah, thank you so much. If you do have more questions, you can reach out to me or reach out to Olu. I would leave the link in the description. So please go check the links. All the information that you missed will be available to you. You can reach him again on Instagram at Olufuemiloye, and also on Twitter as well. Don't worry, you'll see all of that in the description. And if you're new to my channel, my name is Gloria Oz. I live in the province of Ontario here in Canada, and I love to help newcomers who are looking to move to Canada, help them to integrate and help them to help them to settle in this country. So again, if you do have any questions, let me know. And thank you so much for coming to this live event. Again, subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much as you do. And give this video a like, please. The more likes this video can get, the more it will be shared to other people as well. I do appreciate your time, and I hope you stay safe, and bye-bye. I'm sorry, someone asked me, I'm looking for his contact. I'm a Nigerian based in Cairo. Farming is my hobby. Yeah, you can reach him on his Instagram. Yeah, you can reach Olu in it. Just check the description. You will see that information on there. How can you reach me? My email is let me type that in for you. Gracious 2BHOLD @gmail.com. So you can reach me on graciousbehold@gmail.com. Hi, Fumite, welcome. So welcome and thank you everyone for coming. I'm sorry we have to end the live because I don't really have much to say about the topic. We talked a lot and it's over an hour now. I want you to digest the information. And if you came late and you've not watched from the beginning, you can always go back and watch and listen to everything that Olu said. And if you do have any questions, you can reach out to Olu. Olu is on Instagram, he's on Twitter as well. All that information will be in my description. So go and read that out. Everything about Olu will be on there. And if you're in Nigeria right now, you're looking to immigrate to Canada, Olu has said a lot of things. And I have always said this on my channel. I immigrated to Canada as an international student too. It's really, it's one of the ways for you to become a Canadian citizen in this country. Is it expensive to be an international student? Yes, and like Olu said, we pay 3 to 4 times as more than what the Canadians would pay to become a student here in this country. So yeah, again, subscribe to my YouTube channel, share this video to as many people that you can. Those who are looking to immigrate to Canada as international students or as permanent residents, let them know the information and let them subscribe to my channel. Until I see you in my very next video, stay safe, and this is the final bye. Take care. Bye.